So what's the greatest enemy of peace in your own life? Think about that. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the sons of God. Next, on So What? Hi, I'm Chris Dorman, and welcome back to So What, continuing our look at the seventh beatitude. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. To be a peacemaker, you must first, of course, be a lover of peace. Are you? I don't know about you, but I have people in my life who love conflict. They love arguing about really anything and everything, even meaningless, completely trivial data. They have to fight to win every single point. And I've spent a lot of my years there. I get that. I understand it. And by the grace of God, I don't live there anymore. But do you? Paul told the church at Rome that to the extent that it depends on you, okay, to the extent that it's in your power, live at peace with everybody. How much of the conflict in your life is your own doing? Dr. D. Martin Lloyd-Jones did a great series of sermons on the Beatitudes several decades ago, and I've been reading them. And he said the single greatest thing that a Christian could do to foster peace would be to shut up. He said so much strife is caused because we can't keep our mouths shut. You ever thought about that? The Proverbs say an awful lot about that, don't they? Think about Job and his 3 friends. The greatest thing his friends did for him was to come to his side and be quiet for 7 days and not say a word and just mourn with him as he mourned. Now, at my darkest hour, I had 2 guys in my church who came and moved into my house. They were afraid that I might do myself harm. And they just moved into the house. And anytime I'd wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning, wailing, upset, whatever, they would just let me speak. They would let me vent. They would let me yell. They would let me cry. They would just let me hurt. And they never offered any advice. They never tried to make it better because they couldn't. They were just there. And that's the greatest thing Job's friends did for him. But then they had to open their mouths because they felt like they had something to say, and Job needed to hear it. And Job, in a fit of utter frustration and crying out in agony, he says this: "If only you would be altogether silent. For you, that would be wisdom." Think about that. The Proverbs says this: "A man of knowledge uses words with restraint, and a man of understanding is even-tempered. Even a fool is thought wise if he keeps silent, and discerning if he holds his tongue." And get this: "A fool finds no pleasure in understanding, but delights in airing his own opinions." How much conflict in your life is caused because you can't keep your mouth shut? I was reading the sports page last week, and I turned the page, and Dear Abby was right there, which was kind of weird, but it was in the middle of the sports column, so okay, I read it. And the writer was writing for advice because she didn't want to go to her brother's wedding. Her brother, this is a sister, her brother had hurt her emotionally several years ago. She was in the hospital. She was very sick. She didn't know if it was a fatal illness or not, but her brother and his then girlfriend, now fiance, said they were just too busy and they couldn't come see her. And she has held and nurtured a grudge for years. And now she saw the occasion of his wedding to strike back. So she said, "Hey, look, since that event, we've not been close at all. I'm angry, I'm hurt, and he's done nothing to lessen that hurt. He's done nothing to mend fences, so I don't want to go to his wedding. And that'll really teach him, won't it?" That's just pride, isn't it? That's all that is. That is just pride. How much conflict in your life is due to pride? Think about it. You've been wronged. Your feelings hurt. Justifiably so. You're upset. You might be angry. You might be broken emotionally. And so what do? You fight back. You lash out. You say things that you might later regret. Maybe you say things that are perfectly justified under the circumstances, but ultimately, you're lashing out because you're prideful. Or how much conflict in your life is the result of a lack of real, genuine meekness? Remember, humility in the first beatitude, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. It's recognize that we are beggars before God, that we have nothing, we are nothing, and we can do nothing to change our station. Without God's intervention, we're lost. We're like that beggar who must beg to survive. If people do not reach out to him, he dies. We are the same way. We recognize that. That's the poor in spirit. Meekness is really that humility carried out towards others. How many times has conflict flourished in and around you because of a lack of meekness? Someone says something terribly hurtful to you. That's not true. What do? Well, of course, you defend yourself. How dare you say that about me? And then, you lash out. And you think you're justified because you're righting a wrong. They have said something that isn't true, and dagnabbit, you're going to make it clear that they're wrong. There may be a time and a place for that. But what does Peter tell us about Jesus' example? When they hurled their insults at him, he did not retaliate. Instead, he entrusted himself to his heavenly Father. Do you? Or do you feel compelled to respond to every perceived slight? And then when it's time, hopefully when the relationship is strained, well, I'm not going to make peace. I'm not going to reach out to them. They started it. How many of you have said that? How many of you have relationships that have been broken for decades because somebody else started it? Peacemakers, and only peacemakers, shall be called sons of God. Do you love peace? Or are you your single greatest obstacle to peace? And in his letter to the church at Ephesus, Paul said this in Ephesians chapter 4, starting at verse 1. As a prisoner for the Lord, then, I urge you to live a life worthy of the calling you have received, the calling on the life of a Christian. There is no greater calling. He said, may your life match that calling. May your life match that exalted calling. He goes on to say this. Be completely humble, poor in spirit, and gentle. The word is meekness. Be completely humble and gentle. Be patient, bearing with one another in love. Make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. Make every effort. Spare no expense. Spare no effort. Do everything you possibly can to make peace, to bring peace. Does that describe you? If it doesn't, then maybe you're not a peacemaker. Because to be a peacemaker, beloved, you've got to love peace. Your obligation, beloved, is to reach out and to try. As much as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. Do that and honor God. Show everyone you are a Christian. Thank you for tuning in, my friends. And I'll talk to you next week.